This channel talks more about African stories past, present, and future. Stay tuned to this channel if you want to know more about African history.
General Sani Abacha, 27 years after his death, he was Nigeria's 7th military head of state. He died in office on the 8th day of June, 1998. Abacha is already 27 years old in the grave today. We narrate the circumstances of his death, the events that followed, the movement of his corpse from Abuja by air to Kano, where he was buried, and the intrigues that followed his burial. There was no news of the sickness of Sani Abacha prior to his death. He was hale and hearty, and as a matter of fact, a day before his death, he was at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja, where he personally received the entourage of the then Palestinian leader, Yasser Arafat, who was in Nigeria on a state visit. The visit had been widely publicized and beamed live on television for all to see. Yasser Arafat was a hugely popular figure and everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of him. Abacha was physically present at the airport to welcome him. Abacha appeared strong as usual, and there was no sign of him being ill or any indication that Abacha was dying anytime soon, let alone dying few hours away. Nigerians were thus shocked on hearing the news of the death of Abacha. It was like rumor, but it turned out to be real. It was beyond disputation. General Sani Abacha, Nigeria's strongest man at the time, had indeed passed on to the great beyond. His death came so sudden, and there was no opportunity to even take him to the hospital. He died in his room in Aso Rock. He died in the early hours of the morning, while the skies were still covered with darkness. His death was initially concealed in the inner circles of the Aso Rock villa. It was not immediately announced to the world and to Nigerian citizens. So at daybreak, Nigerian citizens went about their duties, not knowing that their head of state was no more. The news of the death would later be broken to Nigerians in the course of the day. Ironically, it was the BBC that first broke the news to Nigerian citizens and to the world. Radio Nigeria then took the news from the BBC and also made a broadcast to the nation. Abacha's death gave rise to many theories. A certain theory said that he was poisoned to death by Indian women of easy virtue who are said to have been imported into the villa for Abacha's masculine pleasure. There is also the theory that said that he was killed by a close friend, namely General Jeremiah Hussaini. Hussaini and Abacha were the best of friends who would not stay for a day without seeing each other. Hussaini was the minister of the FCT and was the last person to leave Abacha's room hours before Abacha's death. Hussaini, who recently also passed on, had long denied the allegation that was made against him. He stated categorically that he had no reason whatsoever to kill Abacha, who was his closest friend and the head of state of Nigeria, who appointed him as the FCT minister. There is another theory that said that Abacha was killed by operatives that came to Nigeria in the entourage of Yasser Arafat. There is also the theory that he died of cardiac arrest. Another theory said that he died of natural causes. Whatever the truth may be, what is indisputable is the fact that General Sani Abacha died in the wee hours of 8th June 1998. This marked the end of the life of Nigeria's most powerful military head of state, and at the time of the making of this video, it is already 27 years in the grave. Perhaps the version of the story as told by Major Hamza Al-Mustafa, Chief Security Officer to Abacha, might be the most reliable version of the story of Abacha's death. In an interview granted to Chuks Okocha of the This Day newspaper with the title How Abacha Died, Al-Mustafa's account of Abacha's death goes as follows, quote, "The sudden collapse of the health system of Abacha started on June 7, 1998 at the Abuja International Airport, immediately after one of the security personnel who accompanied Yasser Arafat of Palestine shook hands with him. He added, "Shortly after the handshake, I noticed the change in the countenance of Abacha, and I immediately informed the ADC, Lieutenant Colonel Abdullah, who advised that we keep a close watch on him. Later in the evening, his doctor came around and administered injection on him. He was then advised to have a short rest." Al-Mustafa continued, still in quotes, "I left the villa and went back home to rest. At about 5 a.m., the security guards ran to my quarters to inform me that Abacha was very unstable. I ran to the guest house of the head of state. When I got to his bedside, he was already gasping for breath. I immediately called Abacha's personal physician, Dr. Wali, who arrived at the villa in 8 minutes and gave Oga 2 doses of injection, one at the heart and another on the neck. This did not work. The head of state at this time had already turned very cold. The doctor then told me that the head of state was dead." Al-Mustafa added, still in quotes, "The story that my boss died on women is not true. It is a great lie. The story that my boss ate poisoned apple is also not true." End of quote. Al-Mustafa took absolute charge of the moment and shut the doors from the usual visitors. He sent instruction to the soldiers at the gate that no one should be allowed into the villa without his clearance. This instruction was followed and carried out to the latter. Telephone calls were then made by him to several very important persons in the military, including the army chiefs and former military heads of state, on what should be the next line of action. An emergency meeting was then convened at daybreak. The invitees were simply informed that they were needed at the villa by the commander-in-chief. None of them knew that the commander-in-chief was already dead. They hurriedly went to the villa and seated at the conference room, expecting to have a meeting with the commander-in-chief. While the invitees were all seated, the news of Abacha's death was broken to them. These were members of Abacha's inner circle. Deliberations were then made behind closed doors on who becomes the next head of state of Nigeria and the modalities for the burial of Abacha. In the end, General Abdul Salami Abubakar was elected as the new head of state of Nigeria, and Abacha's body was flown by air to his hometown of Kano. It was indeed the end of an era in the history of Nigeria. Oji Obunaya Oji, Radio Nigeria State House correspondent at the time, has stated in his book Inside Aso Rock that what followed was the conveyance of Abacha's body to Abacha's hometown of Kano for burial in the evening hours. Oji noted at page 145 as follows, quote, "We had already boarded the aircraft and almost getting set to take off when General Abubakar curiously asked, 'Where is the corpse?' He was told that the corpse was in the hold, where passenger luggage is usually kept. 'No, no, no, bring it inside,' the general commanded." Oji Obunaya Oji went on to say, still in quotes, "The corpse, which was not in a casket, was brought inside the plane and kept few seats away from where I sat. As the journey progressed, whenever there was turbulence, the body would shake, exposing the legs, which were partially covered. I sat in the aircraft speechless. My reflections were on life, death, power, influence, and the vanity of human desires. The presidential jet touched down in Kano, and the remains of the head of state was conveyed in a motorcade to the Kano Central Mosque and then to his family compound, and the body was laid in the Abacha family mosque and then committed to Mother Earth in accordance with Islamic rites. The burial ended at about 10:05 p.m. His death and burial brought to an end an era in the post-colonial history of Nigeria. Abacha was born and brought up in Kano to a Kanuri family originally from present-day Borno State. He attended the Nigerian Military Training College in Kaduna and was commissioned in 1963 after he had attended the Mons Officer Cadet School in Aldershot, England. Abacha was involved in all the successful military coups in Nigeria since July 1966. In 1966, when he was still a second lieutenant with the 3rd Battalion in Kaduna, he took part in the July 1966 Nigerian counter-coup from the conceptual stage. In 1969, he fought during the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War as a platoon and battalion commander. He later became the commander of the 2nd Infantry Division in 1975. In 1983, Abacha was General Officer commanding the 2nd Mechanized Division and was appointed a member of the Supreme Military Council. In the same year, Abacha played a prominent role in the 1983 Nigerian coup d'etat, which brought General Muhammadu Buhari to power, and the 1985 Nigerian coup d'etat, which removed Buhari from power and brought General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida to power. He played a critical role as the co-announcer on Radio Nigeria. When General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida was named President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 1985, Abacha was named Chief of Army Staff. He was later appointed Minister of Defense in 1990. Abacha served as Chief of Army Staff from 1985 to 1990 and served as Chief of Defense Staff from 1990 to 1993 and served as Minister of Defense. Abacha is noted for having been the first Nigerian military officer to attain the rank of general without skipping a single rank, despite his closeness to the seat of power for many years. In November 1993, Abacha overthrew interim President Ernest Shenekon in a palace coup and pronounced himself as the 7th military head of state of Nigeria. He remained in office till the 8th day of June 1998, when he passed on to the great beyond. It is important to add that no autopsy was allowed by the family to be carried out on Abacha's body. Until this day, Nigerians do not know what exactly killed General Sani Abacha. Abacha was an adherent of the Muslim faith, hence his burial the same day he died. To some, Abacha was a good man. To others, he was a brutal dictator. Some people took to the streets to rejoice over his death, while others became sober and greatly mourned his death. Abacha was survived by a wife, Mariam, and together they had 8 children.
Subscription is the key for getting more of the story. Please comment, like, and share. Thank you.